many of you already have a podcast or you are thinking about starting a podcast? If you fall in any one of those categories, then you are in the right place, because today I am going to be giving you 3 tips on how you can successfully launch or relaunch your podcast. And for those of you who do not know me, I am Coach Tina Ramsey, your certified VCM coach, specializing in visibility, connections, and monetization. I am also known as the #1 podcast specialist. So let's go ahead and jump right on in with the 3 tips to successfully launching your podcast. This can also double over into relaunching your podcast if you already have one. I am also the creator of Learn How to Start a Podcast and Monetize It, because that is when we'll get into the business of podcasting. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. With podcasting, it is so popular these days because when the world shut down, we had to figure out different ways in order to still get out to the masses what we're doing, right? I have been doing podcasts and radio for many, many years, way before this was ever a thought. And so, but what I do know is that today, more than ever in this time, people are thirsting for information and quality content. And you and I, we have to make it very, very easy for other businesses and the consumer and clients to be able to find you and connect with you on a virtual platform. Podcasting actually provides that for you. It's a great, effective, cost-effective tool in order for businesses to share their mission, purpose, and thoughts literally with millions. And if you are a business or nonprofit or business for profit, coach, influencer, leader, expert, or author, it's essential that you create a podcast for your brand and your mission, because it's just an extension of what you're already doing. And it's one of the best cost-effective ways in order to position and pivot your business into the now. And have it on solid ground. Now, we're going to start with the 3. I know this slide says 5, but we have something special for you at the end of this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. So when you think about podcasting in general, who should have a podcast? We hear about them all the time. And I will highly recommend that every serious business owner or entrepreneur should have a podcast, whether you are a nonprofit, business for profit, influencer, advocate, author, coach, faith-based organization, and TV show host, or maybe a content producer. If you are a content producer of live video or TV producer, you definitely, if you are not doing a podcast too, then you're missing out. And we actually teach you how to use that content for multiple purposes when we train our students and our clients. So let's go ahead and jump into tip number 1 on how you can successfully launch or relaunch your podcast. First, you need to know the purpose of your podcast. Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you solving a problem? Are you providing a solution to your audience, to your ones who are listening to you, which we call in the podcast world listenership? Is it because it's really an essential part of your overall business? So knowing your purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, what are you doing it for, who are you helping, how can you extend it to the masses, and when are you going to be producing this content on a regular basis, whether it's going to be weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, or every day. It just depends on how you want to do it. But first of all, you need to sit back and really think and build it on a solid foundation of structure of knowing what your purpose is before you get started. And just don't go start a podcast without these fundamental things in place. Number 2, this might seem redundant, it might seem cliche, it might seem unnecessary to go over this, but you need to name your podcast. I cannot tell you how many times individuals just put any name up for their podcast because they just want to say they have a podcast and it has no connection to them, their business, their mission, their brand, or whatever. It is just there. That is a big no in regards to successfully launching your podcast. You think about the primary best practice of choosing your name for your podcast. You want to make sure that you're being very creative. You want to make it easy for the listener to remember and incorporate it in your current branding. So if you are a business and you already have your current branding, this will be a great extension of what you're already doing, which means that you can keep the same colors and lettering and branding and just extend it and let them know that, hey, we have a podcast now. And then you keep along those same lines with your same user key terms and your descriptive language in order to carry that over into your podcast. So let's just break down these 4 points. You need to be creative. And you're saying, well, I don't need to be creative if I'm taking over what I already did to my podcast. Yes, you do. You still need to be creative because when you go over to podcast platforms, sometimes you need to be a little bit more simpler. They only allow so much space for your description. So you need to simplify it. And you need to make sure that your logo or your branding, all of that is cohesively connected with what you're doing so it can make sense to your consumer base. You need to stick with that current branding, and you don't need to go outside of it if this podcast is an extension of what you're already doing. Now, for example, if this is not an extension of what you're already doing, then and you're starting from scratch, and that's something totally different. And we train and help our clients on that too with our consulting and coaching. But if this is an extension of what you're doing, make sure that you stick with the current color, branding, fonts, all that good stuff that identifies your brand with you and what you're doing. You want to make sure that your descriptive terms are similar to what you already currently have. Of course, adding in that this is a podcast. And make sure that you use the keywords so that they can search you and your information pops up online where they can easily listen to your podcast. Tip number 3, you need to know your listeners. If you already have a business and you are just making this as an extension of what you're doing, then you are really in a good position because you already know who your audience is. But if you're starting from scratch and you have no idea who your audience is, you know who you want to help, but you don't know who your audience is. Let me say that again. You know who you want to help, but you don't know who your audience is. Then the great thing is follow tip 1 and 2, and then start your podcast. And then as your analytics and the data come out, it will let you know exactly who your audience is, because this is very, very important. Knowing who your audience is like a business in itself. There is a science, there is a strategic plan, there is a system of podcasting. It's a business. A podcast is just not something that you just simply sit down, talk, and share information. When you're taking your podcast to the next level, it is actually a business, an extension of a leg, additional multiple streams of income that a podcast brings. And that is how we break down and let our students know about the breakdown of all the multiple streams of income that you can make from just one podcast. So that's why it's so important that you know your listeners and you have that information so that you collect it, so you don't neglect any part of what your ideal audience want and what they need. And it defines and it helps you create that quality content that will cause them to keep coming back to listen for more. And as they listen, they are actually going to start recommending and sharing your podcast with other people because they absolutely love the content that was customized and designed for them. So let's break down these 4 points. You need to create an avatar. For those of you who may not know what an avatar is, which I'm pretty sure you do because you're a business person, it's just simply a person, a group, or an entity. I will really tell you to be very, very strategic and go very, very small, like put it right down to like a person. Like Your ideal avatar will be maybe a mom. Some people will have a mom in her mid-30s. She have about 2 kids. She's married, or she may be divorced, or she may not be in a relationship. I mean, if it's a man, he's a fitness person. He likes to go to the gym. He is a community advocate. He has children. He's a single father. He's married or whatever. He's a bachelor. You need to really think about those details when you are creating your podcast. And I know you're saying, wow, that's very, very detailed. So the more detailed you are, the more isolated you are with your description of who your target audience is and who you want to help, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to reach that audience. I know it's hard at first, but it will help in the long run. And then you need to also know how old they are. You know how old the people or the persons are, because you want to be able to create content that they will identify with. Okay. And then knowing, do they work or do they not work? Or they went to college or they haven't went to college. And why are they listening to you? They're listening to you as a resource, or they're listening to you to learn, or they're listening to you for entertainment. Why are they listening to you? And so think about what it is that you bring to the table that is beneficial to your listeners, and how you can better assist them with creating content and a great listenership experience that they will be happy to share with their friends and families and other entrepreneurs as their go-to for quality information and content. Why not? That should be you, right? That should be you. All right. So what I'm going to do on today, that was just due to time. We only went through the first 3 tips to successfully launching your podcast. But being that you are at this event, and I am absolutely loving everything that you are doing, and I want to make sure that you have all the fundamental tools in place so that you can successfully launch or relaunch your podcast, we're actually going to give away a free copy of the 5 tips how you can successfully launch your podcast ebook for absolutely free. And how you can actually get this is go to our sweet and cute little website, Buddy Digital Business Card, and then you click the email part and you send us an email and let us know that you would like the 5 tips to successfully launching your podcast, and we will send you that for absolutely free. Normally we charge a fee, but for you, it's going to be free. Woo! You saw how I rhymed it. So just make sure to go here. We look forward to hearing from you. I am Coach Tina Ramsey, your certified VCM coach, helping entrepreneurs with visibility, connections, and monetization. I am also the #1 podcast specialist, helping you not only start a podcast, but successfully launch it. All right. And then on the 3rd tip, helping you understand how you can monetize what you're doing. I am done speaking. Have a great day. Bye.